I started also with the Nizoral shampoo because Bill Phillips was a big advocate of that in the magazine Muscle Media 2000. And I had a dermatologist who was a bodybuilder friend of mine. So he would write me the scripts for the Nizoral shampoo and I would use it. But I noticed I don't know if it really helped at all, but I would get like almost dandruff from it. I don't know if it was drying out my scalp too much because I would use it like twice a day. And it was because I had unlimited access to it,
Yeah.
And, it just gave me dandruff and I didn't like it because I never had dandruff. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to another installment of Guru Talk. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today's topic is going to be one that I hold near and dear to my heart: hair loss and how to overcome it, how to grow back your hair, maybe how to prevent yourself from losing hair to begin with. And I have a guru here today who's going to be talking to us a little bit about some of his techniques, and maybe we can get some great ideas from him. He contacted me on Facebook, and he is known only as T-Iron. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me here, first off.
Sure.
Big fan of yours for a long time, obviously, like many.
Thank you.
So yeah, I contacted you because I just started posting more content publicly, and I was thinking, like you said, hair loss is a massive topic, and I was like, I want to get some my info out there.
Well, you have a pretty good head of hair. Is that real or is that a wig?
No, it's real.
I have to ask you that for the fans' sake.
It's not as good as it used to be. I'm known online. Where I first got famous was because I regrew my own hair. So it goes through phases where it comes back and forth, and I can talk about that a little bit after we get into it.
So how old are you now?
I'm just about to turn 36.
Okay. And I didn't lose a hair on my head till I turned 30. And then all of a sudden I noticed it was getting thin and thickening. I thought it was just due to contest prep. And then one season it never came back. And it just got thinner from that point on. I think everyone has their own genetic time clock. What have you noticed in your situation personally?
Personally, so I started using on and off when I was like a bit over 17. And I was fine on typical tests, Decadeball. And it wasn't until I ran Tren, I got some sort of Telogen T hair loss. I ran Tren, it was 50 milligrams every other day. So just 150 milligrams a week. I only got a week and a half into it. And my hair, I was touching my hair and my hands were just covered in hair.
Wow.
And so it was a T shock hair loss to start, but it mostly focused on the temples and crown. And I stopped it from that point on. But it continued for like a couple months afterwards, and then anytime I touch an androgen there afterwards, same thing, the hair loss would start regressing basically.
It's funny because I never noticed like clumps of hair coming out. I never even saw hair in the shower. It was like my hair stopped growing. Like I never lost it like where it fell out. It just never it just got thinner, and it was over time. It was like very subtle, like type of thing,
What's funny is that in science they'll say normally when the hair loss starts, it starts off with that T hair loss, a shock hair loss. Everybody gets kind of that shock once, and then it's that slow progression there afterwards.
Yeah, I never noticed it. But you know what? When I was in high school and junior high school, and most of the kids would go through that growth spurt.
Yeah,
I just grew consistently. I never was the shortest guy. I never was the tallest guy, and I just was consistent. So I think that's just the way my body works. So when you first noticed that you were losing all this hair, that main loss, what did you do? Did you freak out?
So yeah, I didn't know anything at that time, essentially about anything, almost, if you want to put it that way. I freaked out. I stopped everything. I did a little minor PCT. I stopped everything, and I don't think I did anything with my hair. I just waited probably about a year, and it did slowly start to come back, but with a little bit of recession, a little bit of the crown gone still. And then that's when I started messing with a little bit like Nizoral shampoo and just a couple like more toned down items like no finasteride or stuff like that.
I started also with the Nizoral shampoo because Bill Phillips is a big advocate of that in the magazine Muscle Media 2000. And I had a dermatologist who was a bodybuilder friend of mine, so he would write me the scripts for the Nizoral shampoo, and I would use it. But I noticed I don't know if it really helped at all, but I would get like almost dandruff from it. I don't know if it was drying out my scalp too much, because I would use it like twice a day, and it was because I had unlimited access to it, And it just gave me dandruff, and I didn't like it because I never had dandruff before. So.
Yeah, in Canada, I'm in Canada, and it's actually over the counter here. So I just went in. I know you Americans, you have to get a script for it. I did the same thing. I would do once or twice a day, and then I'd even apply it before bed. I'd apply it just on my scalp and go to sleep with it.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
It dried the shit out of my hair. Absolutely.
Yeah. So. Well, it's basically for what is it for? Like dermatitis. Like that, right?
Yeah, its main treatment, because it is an antifungal. So I believe its main treatment is, I think they're targeting towards fungal infection /
like ringworm, probably ringworm.
So
it didn't work. Did it work for you? Did you grow any hair back?
I found it worked pretty damn good, pretty decent. Again, I left it on overnight, so I went hardcore with it. I feel like it does work pretty good, but I feel like the side effects just aren't worth it, so I don't suggest it anymore. So besides it drying the hell out of your hair, like you can't style it or do anything with it, it actually does absorb systematic. And if you look up the actual drug and what it does, it lowers the aromatase enzyme, so it'll lower your estrogen. It'll also lower your DHT, which is good for the scalp. But
the Nizoral does that?
Yeah, and then it also suppresses cortisol production. So I started noticing when I was mega applying it, I was feeling like complete crap. I just felt like run down. And then I paired the two together and realized, oh shit, because it absorbs systematic.
Yeah. You're definitely getting systemic absorption when you put stuff on your scalp. Especially if you're sleeping with it on there. All night.
Absolutely.
So what did you do after that when you realized that probably wasn't a viable solution?
So I had decent hair come back, a decent amount of hair come back after that. But then I forget what I ran after that. I ran something else, and then I started, like I said, I just got that slow regression there afterwards. Right. It might have been, maybe I ran a little EQ, maybe it was Anadrol, I can't remember. And then that's when I realized, oh shit, like when I touch stuff, I'm going to get hair loss. So that's when I started researching, and then I came up with my first protocol, which was, can't remember exactly what it was, the very first one, but it involved a whole bunch of things. I did a mixture of things proven in human studies and animal studies, but I wanted to remain as natural as possible. I didn't want to take finasteride. I didn't want to take minoxidil because that breaks down collagen, and it can age. A lot of people report their face looks aged after using it a while. So
interesting with the minoxidil. You know what I noticed, and I don't know if anyone even. I had to go for a surgery. I don't even remember what it was. I think it was arthroscopic surgery on my shoulder. And I went for the pre-certification blood work, and they do like a PTT test, which is your clotting time. And my clotting time was really, really high. And they were like, they couldn't figure out what was causing it. And at the time, I wasn't using fish oil or anything like that. I wasn't really, that wouldn't have accounted for it. It wasn't like I do now. And it was like early in my bodybuilding career. And it turned out after all trial and error, me stopping stuff, and because they kept retesting me, it was the minoxidil that was doing it. And I didn't even know it did that. It was, I was putting that, at the time it was like you'd squirt it on your head at night and just kind of go to sleep with it on there. And once again, I don't think that worked at all for me either. I think it was called Rogaine at the time,
Yeah. See, I wanted to avoid, I researched. Even the second I started researching any of those drugs, I was like, I don't like this side. I don't like that side. Yeah. So I just researched everything fully. Even saw palmetto. I was like, if I'm going to use that, I want a very, very low dose of that, whatever. And I did use that for a little bit. But yeah, so I focused my first protocol. I think I did EME oil. I believe I applied a little bit of cayenne pepper to the top of my scalp too. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what I did the first time, but I basically regrew it all, and then I touched something again a bit later on.
Let me stop you for a second. Where did you get this protocol, emu oil? Like where did you hear about that?
So I basically just started. I literally just started searching everywhere, studies, this and that. I seen a study with the emu oil. It was it was in mice. I don't think there might have been a human one, but don't quote me on that. Yeah. It was in mice, and what I found interesting was it was that it increased skin and hair DNA synthesis. So it didn't just regrow the hair, but it increased the synthesis of the skin and the hair. So I was like, we're definitely adding that one in. But yeah,
and it worked. And you think it worked?
Yeah. So like I said, one of the reasons I became semi-famous online, you'll see my pictures back. Like I said, this was probably like 10 years ago. Like,
right.
There's different sets of pictures throughout the years of like, here I am with a receded hairline. Oh, here I am with my hairline and my crown back. Mm-hmm. And so each protocol I did work, basically. I just kept adding things that might have been worked better or quicker or stuff like that.
Right. And what did you find worked the best?
So I'll say that as like a whole protocol wise versus just like, because, I never use an item solo. It was always multiple different attacks, if you will, and kind of hitting it from every angle. So I always kept the emu oil in. A more so not recent, well, a few years ago, is peppermint oil. So it works the same way as Minoxidil, where it increases circulation. So okay, let me see. Yeah, okay, I'll continue on with the protocol first. Spironolactone cream. That one,
yeah, good.
I only use that one once, but I still suggest it because they applied it to whole backs of people and it did not absorb systematic. And it's a androgen blocker, so obviously it's proven to help.
Yeah, spironolactone is also known as aldactone. The bodybuilders use it as a diuretic, but when you take it long term, it's an androgen blocker. They give actually these trans men who want to become women, they give them spironolactone. Aren't you worried about it getting? Because I know stuff can go through the scalp a lot more easily than it can the skin.
So when I'm suggesting hair loss protocols to people, there's two things that are kind of iffy. That is one of them where I'm like, hey, this, it is a drug. And like I say, they applied it to whole backs of people. It did not absorb systematic, but I'm still like, hey, this one is a drug. We don't need to use it. I've only used it a few times and like a couple people and myself once. So it's one of those ones where it's like, it's not in my kind of permanent natural protocol.
Right.
Basically. Where was it going? I was going down the list. So emu oil, peppermint oil, pumpkin seed oil. Again, this was there's human studies in this as well where they're applying it topically. It's anti-androgen. Again, it inhibits DHT production.
Oh, really? I would be afraid that doesn't your scalp get all greasy and everything like that from all these oils you're putting on?
So yes, but it doesn't. It's greasy while you put it on. So there's two ways I suggest when people do it. One, I say you applying it for 10-15 minutes is better than nothing. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you got to shave, go to the washroom, quickly apply it, then have your shower and wash it out. Or you leave it in overnight and you have to sleep on a towel or something like that. Yeah. But my success has been even if you leave it in when you're at home for an hour and you're going to shower in an hour, it still works just leaving it in for that little bit. Vitamin D, this is a semi-new one here that I haven't talked about either. So I'm going to explain how about I start with balding a little bit so for each one. You good with that?
Yeah.
So with male pattern baldness, because it's a pattern, they figured out, hey, why are you just losing it in the pattern? And they thought, oh, maybe those receptors at the follicle are more sensitive, which they are, but they finally figured out why. They found that, so the reason it's only a pattern there, they took a skull and they stretched material over it, and they realized that the most tension is at the temples and the crown, and then a little bit less on the middle there. And so they're like, hey, there's less circulation in these spots, there's more tension. So they found out balding men have half the circulation in those areas. And then, which is hypoxia. So they had a lack of blood flow, and the hypoxia was proven to increase 5-AR enzyme locally in those spots. So that upregulated the androgen receptors in those spots and the DHT, and it lowered aromatase enzyme. So we know why male pattern baldness is a pattern hair loss. It's because those are the areas affected by circulation. And that's why Minoxidil does work, because it increases circulation. Right. It lowers the DHT, increases estrogen back to normal levels. So my protocol, I base all around basically increasing circulation, as well as semi-blocking the androgens with some topical oils, fats that block it, And yeah, so restoring that, and then things like when you have hypoxia, it also causes fibrosis. So vitamin D topical, that was proven to reverse fibrosis locally and topically. Yeah, that's what my protocol is based on.
So actually, what do you buy a vitamin D oil, or you just open up a capsule?
A vitamin, you could do that because, yeah, I'm pretty sure basically every single vitamin D capsule has it's mixed with a fat for absorption. But yeah, you can find vitamin D oil and it's all mixed with the fat, and that's all you need with it. Basically, is mixed with the fat.
Right, right. So you got peppermint oil, you got emu oil, yeah. You got vitamin D. What else we got?
We're putting pumpkin seed oil.
Pumpkin seed oil. That's a lot of oils you're putting on your head.
So
how much of each are you using?
So when I suggest this to people, basically I'll tell them, some people mix it all together. I personally don't when I tell people. So I'll get like a nickel size amount in your palm. And I tell people, if you're doing your whole head, I suggest wet it first. You pour that nickel size amount in your palm and you kind of spread it to as far as you feel till it not dries up, but you don't feel that good amount in your hand anymore. And you kind of just make sure you get each spot with each oil kind of.
Interesting. Okay. And do you sleep with it overnight? I know you said you could put it on for an hour and that's still effective, but
I did originally when I recovered my hair loss, but then later again when I touched a harsh androgen again, caused me hair loss again. I didn't sleep with it there on after, and that's where I found out that it was still effective if I just applied it for like an hour a day. Even if I missed a day, it was still effective.
Wow.
So yeah, I found out that a really kind of lazy approach still worked. And the main ones that most everybody uses, like I was saying, there is the emu, peppermint, pumpkin seed, and then not even the vitamin D. Like I said, that's newest addition. But those three are the main oils that I suggest to people, which has the most bang for the buck. And then sometimes, somebody's getting kind of slow regrowth, we'll toss, like I said, the vitamin D oil or hyaluronic acid as well. Maybe toss a little bit of that in there.
Mm-hmm. So give us the whole ritual now. So from like I have so many rituals already. It's like I need another ritual. Like I need a hole in my head. But I'm also very vain, and I want my hair to come back a little bit more than it has come back, especially in the crown area. What would you do? Give me the protocol exactly, like because I'm a robot. I'll follow exactly what you say. What's the protocol?
Do you want, so like I said, there's the basic protocol, which most of my guys have followed, which is a lot more simpler. Or there's a protocol where it's like, hey, let's go a little bit harder and throw everything at it. Which protocol do you want to
hear? Give us both. Okay. Give us the hard one first.
The hard one first? Okay. So one thing I want to add to this, microneedling as well. It's not part of topicals, but it's a nice addition, right?
Oh, it helps?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a quick little caveat I want to add to this. Mm-hmm. Every single person that has had slow results on my protocol, you add the microneedling, it's like, bam, it works twice as fast. And I found this online too. You notice there's tons of guys who are on finasteride, minoxidil, Nizoral, the big three. They're barely seeing hair regrowth. They're complaining, I need, they're looking for the next cure.
Right.
They add microneedling and bam, everything just works.
How often do you do the microneedling?
So I try to base it off studies, but the studies are all over. Different frequencies, different lengths, and different studies saying different things. So what I had to do was apply what I've used on people and myself, and then what I've seen all the others that are like real world data do. Mm-hmm. And my suggestion, if people know microneedling, some might have a shit fit over this, but 2.5 millimeter, the frequency, once a week. That's how much I suggest it.
Mm-hmm. Did you do that yourself, or do you go to a professional to do that?
Myself, and that's what most everyone else who uses. And I suggest like the pen, you know what I mean, the mechanical electric.
So where do you get that? People don't know about this. This is new information. So where do you get a microneedling pen?
So if you Google them, there's tons, but obviously you want something that's a little more quality. And people did tests, like paper tests, where they could see if it kept the same like length, frequency throughout it. And the Derminator 2, if you Google that one, all the hair loss sufferers, they tested the shit out of all different ones, and that one seemed to be the best one.
Really? Derminator 2 microneedling?
Derminator 2, yeah.
Where do you get them? Like Amazon?
No, I don't believe they're on Amazon, though I ordered mine a few years ago. I think you can only get them. It's in a European country. I forget the country, but yeah, when you Google it, it should be that first website. I think the website's called Derminator, actually.
I'm looking at the. There's some other brands on Amazon. It looks like.
Yeah, I don't think this one is because I remember it was a hassle to get it.
Interesting. My sister just did some the microneedling for her face, but in a clinic in a clinical setting with a professional machine. So that's
with the machine, it's kind of foolproof. You don't stay on one spot, just keep moving and don't apply harsh pressure. It's kind of foolproof. You know what I mean?
Right. So once a week you're doing the microneedling, and you do your whole head or just the areas where you're like losing the hair?
I normally tell people do your whole head because if you're receding, somebody has receding temples, receding crown, no matter what, they're generally balding on the top of their head too. It's just not slick bald, right? They have even if it's a 25%, 25% thinning, it's like you might as well regrow the whole head. If you're already there doing that, you might as well get the rest of it, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it makes sense.
So, the harsh protocol. So microneedling, no matter what, like I said, it'll double twice as fast your results, basically.
I'm going to pull up this Derminator 2. I pulled the website for it.
Gotcha.
Is this it right here?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
All right. So that's the Derminator 2 and computer controlled needling. Oh, it has like a whole little, it's like a little TENS unit almost, it looks like.
Yeah.
What is it? It basically pushes those needles out at a certain every so often.
Yeah, it's like a tattoo gun. You set the speed, you set the length, and it's and when it's on the fast speed, it hurts like hell, but it's quick. It's just like like
right. It's like you get a tattoo. It's not fun.
Yeah, literally.
All right. So what's next after the micro needling thing?
Okay. We'll recap here. We're doing the harsh protocol. You got the pumpkin, you got the EME oil, pumpkin, EME oil. What am I missing? The peppermint. So that is the big three that everybody goes on. And again, if I'm just throwing everything at everyone, we'd also toss in evening primrose oil.
Okay.
The evening primrose oil basically has the converted fat of LA, the GLA. And the issue with this is that balding men have a lower D6D enzyme, which converts linoleic acid into gamma-linoleic acid, and that's important for all the hair prostaglandins, hair hormones, helps prevent hair loss, helps hair growth. A whole bunch of different benefits. Then, like I said, the vitamin D, hyaluronic acid, which increases fat cells and helps you make new fat cells. And the importance of that, because balding men have half the scalp fat, which creates cushioning as non-balding men. So we need to replace that fat in the scalp. And I'm sure you've seen that, people are balding, they kind of have it looks bony on the top, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have that. Then we have the spironolactone cream. Then this one I almost never suggest anymore, but estrogen cream topically.
What does that do?
So I'll almost only suggest it to somebody who's already on steroids and maybe taking an AI or this or that. So the main basis of it is they applied it to people and it caused hair regrowth. And estrogen is involved in increasing the hair anagen phase, so it keeps it growing for longer. And we know it's involved in hair because in balding men, when you have hypoxia, it raises and the estrogen lowers. So estrogen is important in keeping that hair growing, keeping it in the growth cycle, basically. And it is effective, but, if you're a natural male, I only suggest a small amount, but if you're a natural male, you don't really want to be applying that, right?
Where would you even get estrogen cream? Like from
You can actually buy it on Amazon and basically any supplement store. Yeah.
And how much would you put on? Like a dab, or what are you talking about? How much?
When I suggest the estrogen cream, that's what I suggest. Literally like a small, even if you put a pea-size amount on your fingertips, I'm like, you push it against both and you just apply it to those slick balding areas where, that extra really pushing that regrowth.
Right. And how much of the other oils, like the EME oil, is it also like a very small
Yeah, all the other oils that are your basic main oils, same thing. You apply that nickel size amount. You get it maybe halfway on the one side of your head, apply it again, get it halfway, maybe in the middle and then the crown, go to the next oil, and you kind of get that. And you can, once you apply the first oil, because you're kind of saturated, you can tell the other ones just spread more easier too.
Gotcha. Okay. And how often do you do that? Every day?
This is what this is what I tell people. Don't make it a chore, because consistency is the biggest thing. When people are like, oh, I don't want to have to apply all these oils, do this, do that. Do not make it a chore. So in the fact where, like I said, if you're about to go shower and it's like, hey, I don't have time to do today, I'm going to quickly just blotch this stuff in my hand and quickly go about it, and you apply it for that 5-10 minutes, bam, done. So the best protocol would be for you to do it twice a day. But again, almost nobody does that. So yeah, that's what I say. Don't make it a chore. I've had success on myself and others, even doing it every other day, just for that 5, 10, 20 minutes.
Okay. And how fast do you see the hair regrowth?
That is individual. You know, people say hair growth takes a long time, but I'm not sure if you ever notice this. So, you know, let's say you freshly shaven,
Right.
and all of a sudden, you know, you got those hairs that maybe you have some hairs that come up here. Within 2 days, you'll see a hair that's like freaking 2 centimeters long growth. So like hair can just spur, you know, have like supercharged growth. So most people, literally within a week or two, if you study your hairline well, they'll
Right.
see a couple of those new baby hair. And you know they're baby hairs because, you know, the rest of your hair is like 2 inches,
Right.
whatever long. You will see that. So most people within a week or two have a moderate amount of baby hairs in their balding areas. And with really good results. Usually by 2 to 3 months, people have a really great density where it's like you're almost covered in your balding areas with more spaced apart hairs. Something that could kind of replicate like your hairline is there basically. You know, to some people by a decent extent, like they're like almost fully, you know, have that hair there.
Now, what if you've taken like a cycle of anabolic steroids? Can you do this same protocol with it?
So this one's semi back and forth here. So a lot of the guys that I have, they're like, hey, I only want to touch the lesser androgen products. You know what I mean? Like DECA and stuff like that. So a lot of my guys just opt out and be like, no, I'm just using hair safe stuff like DECA. But then I do have the guys where it's like, no, I still want to run those harsh androgens. And I haven't tested it out, even though I've been doing this for years. I haven't tested it out as extensively because most of the people that say, you know, I'm just going to use the harsh androgens anyways, don't religiously track their hair. I would say a good portion of those people that want to run, you know, those really harsh ones, Masteron and, you know, just any of the harsh DHTs, it does work for them. If they religiously apply, it does seem to prevent it, which, you know, makes sense. You're blocking the androgens topically at the scalp or locally. So
what do you think about you got it.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead. The other thing, well, I was going to mention the test hair safe protocol. Did you want me to get on that or stick to where we were going?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, give us the other protocol. Okay,
so this is the big one that almost well nobody knows, but I've never seen anybody post it out. So I have like this knack of finding those really what's the word, like
esoteric articles.
Yeah, like they're like nobody finds them. Like you just don't find them with a simple search. Somehow I'll find one study and then I go to the references or citations and I find this one and this one and this one, and all of a sudden I'm in this big rabbit hole. So this one is mind blowing because, you know, tons of guys out there want to be on TRT or need TRT, and even TRT doses, if you're a hair loss sufferer, it messes with your hair, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so many of them are on finasteride, whatever, and then, you know, a lot of people get, you know, side effects from finasteride. So, or then even people who want to blast, you know, like you, I know you've talked before about doing a bulking cycle, like 1 gram a test. That's all you need. You know what I mean? Like just a plain and simple test cycle. So
I used to stay on I started finasteride in I think it was 1999, and I've been on it ever since. Now I'm actually on dutasteride, but I stayed on it continuously, you know, just because I was afraid, you know, I don't know if it grew back any hair. I think maybe a little bit, but I certainly don't, you know, I definitely can use more hair. I would like the crown definitely is my weakness, you know, area.
That's a suggestion there before I go further with that. Make sure when you're applying the oils and microneedling, because most people don't realize this, they start where their hairline is right now. And it's like, no, look back to when you're 16. Your hairline might have been down here. So microneedling and do it lower if you want to get those hairs to come back. Okay. So here's the kicker on the test thing. I talked to you briefly with this in messages on, I'm sure you've heard this before. And many old pros, you would always hear them say as well that they feel like they bulk better on the long esters and they cut better on the short esters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody says, "Oh, I feel like I hold less water weight on test prop or any of the short esters versus long esters." So there actually is merit to that. So the short esters were actually proven to convert more to DHT, and the long esters, they didn't convert as much to the DHT. Now, here's the other big kicker to this: is that how everybody quotes the anabolic to androgenic ratios on drugs like Anavar's 355 androgenic, whatever. Now, the prostate isn't scalp tissue. Everybody thinks that the prostate, when stuff binds to the prostate, it's same as all the other secondary characteristics. No, they tested multiple different sites like the prostate and seminal vessels, and they found that Anavar could maybe attack the prostate more, the seminal vessels less, while Anadrol could do the opposite. And this is why those anabolic androgenic ratios have nothing to do with hair loss, because one could be binding harsher to the scalp and the other lesser to the prostate, and vice versa. So this is the thing, though, that they found out with the longer esters. As we know, shorter esters convert more to DHT. The longer the ester of test, the less androgenic it was, and actually the more anabolic. So they compared multiple different drugs with multiple different esters, like 7 different esters, the ones I've never even heard about, and it just kept getting longer and longer. Now, so basically, this is what's interesting. Nandrolone decanate, right? It's nandrolone with decanate ester. Testosterone decanate was the same androgenic activity as DECA on those secondary tissues. So it was literally a much harsher androgen, and basically all the target tissues. And then I started testing this in my hair loss clients. So people who would get hair loss of 100 milligrams testosterone or even less, bam, switch them to 100, 200, even 500 milligrams of the test decanate, not a single hair. Literally, fully.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, so I can't say. Well, no, I could, because all the items that they tested converted to DHT. They didn't test. So the one study that I cross-reference here showed the shorter esters made more DHT. So either the ester, which I think the ester is having some sort of effect. I'll explain in a second. But so one, we know we're making less DHT with the longer esters. So is it because test decanate is making, I don't know, 50% of the DHT as test E or test SIP or test prop or whatever?
Right.
But I think the ester plays a role here. Because hear me out on this part. They then tested muscle growth with different short esters with base testosterone, base nandrolone, phenylpropanate, propanate, all the way up. And even when they matched the frequency to create stable blood levels, like they had, the base done like 6 times a day equal to, test D or test decanate once a week or whatever. The longer esters had 3 times more nitrogen retention, even when the dose is equal. And when they dissected the animals after, they literally had 3 times bigger of the muscles.
Okay.
And nothing's accounting for that except there's a difference in the ester. So it seems like the esters actually play a role in altering the actual hormone, which who knows.
So if you had to make a blanket statement about the different esters, you're saying the long acting like cypionate and enanthate, those esters will convert more likely to what, estrogen or DHT?
So that was proven. The longer the ester, it does convert to more estrogen, and the shorter esters, yes. And I think this is why DECA or nandrolone decanate is so hair safe, is because not just because the nandrolone is helpful, because the decanate ester. Because here's the thing, I've noticed people get hair loss on NPP, which the shorter ester of DECA or nandrolone decanate. And so yet everybody says, oh, just nandrolone is safe. It's like no, it's the long ester nandrolone is safe, and that's what's showing with the test. So like test SIPE and test E is not hair safe. All the guys run it, and it's only like a day or two difference, those esters from decanate. But as soon as that decanate ester is there, and the longer the ester, it's all of a sudden hair safe.
I find it interesting that look, you know what I noticed? I'll tell you something, and I don't know if this is just my theory on this whole thing, but for some reason I noticed when I would take the long-acting esters, I didn't break out as much. And I attributed that, I think, to the fact that my levels were more stable for longer. Whereas when you're constantly having to break down a short ester, like you get spikes in DHT and estrogen more so. So I always stuck with like test-cypionate, test enanthate. I didn't go with the short acting, because if I took propionate or if I took anything short acting, I always broke out way more. And obviously the acne breakouts are, in conjunction with the hair loss, because it's the high DHT levels. Now I happen to also, I think another good thing that people can do is get their DNA tested, because when I got my DNA tested, it showed that I'm a super high DHT converter. I'm so high of a DHT converter that I can take finasteride on no drugs, no TRT, and still not have very low DHT. It kind of just gets it into the normal range. So that's how much I convert, to DHT. So I think knowing your DHT status is also another very important thing, because I don't think everyone needs finasteride, like you said. I think it's overkill for some people.
Right, absolutely. Especially the dosages. Sorry.
So give me a what you think would be a safer steroid cycle for people who are, they're absolutely going to cycle. They're not going to stop cycling just because they're losing their hair. They want a safer cycle. If you had to say this would probably be the best way to go, what would it be?
So I did a YouTube video on this where I broke it down, because, like I said, the anabolic and androgenic ratios don't matter here. They're right. I think Masteron is little androgenic and really high anabolic, so that doesn't matter. So the way I found out all the hair safe ones was trialing on myself and my endless different clients for like 10 years now, where people, they check their hair every freaking day. Like they're like, I'm checking my hair.
Right.
The literally only ones that I found to be hair safe is Deca, D-ball, which some people are surprised with D-ball, but I always throw this out there. Everybody who runs D-ball is running it with test. So that's the other thing. When I mention these drugs, it's without testosterone, kind of like the 70s bodybuilders, Robbie Robinson and stuff. Deca, D-ball, and a really odd one here, methyltren. Can't explain. You will, like I said, it's not tren. It's completely different compound. Yeah. But those three ones, plus now, like I added the long ester forms of like testosterone, decanate, undecanate, those completely hair safe. So if you want to run test, it would be those
long. You want to run the really long esters of testosterone, even more so than what I just said, cypionate and enanthate. You're saying cypionate and enanthate is not that safe?
Not safe at all. And I don't know, like I was saying, if it's because that 1 or 2 extra days added, or if it's because that specific ester is having some type of alteration in the hormone. But yeah, because like you ran test E and Cype, and everybody out there runs basically E and Cype. Always hair loss, 100 milligrams hair loss. The second, like I said, the study showed they did test E, test Cype, and test decanate. And the androgenic activity, was still high with those two esters. The second it was decanate, it was way down here, like on the scale. It was literally equal to Deca. So on the prostate and seminal vessels, Deca was down here, and test E was exactly here, while E and Cype were up here. So
they got that new thing called Nebido. Nebido is like a long-acting, like inject 1,000 milligrams of it. Yeah. It's testosterone undecanoate.
Yeah. I was trying to remember what ester that was. Yeah, I think
it lasts 9 weeks in your system.
Yeah, I think the half-life, is it 21 days or longer? The half-life.
It's long. Yeah. It's 9 weeks you take it, and it's like a real long out. But I don't know if you could raise your levels of that stuff high enough to actually get like a pharmacological effect. It's more of like a hormone replacement type of thing,
Yeah.
But I wonder if people look. If you take 1,000 milligrams the last 9 weeks, I wonder if you took 3,000, milligrams of it
at the start, right?
9 weeks, but at higher levels. And I wonder if that would be hair safe. That would be an interesting study to do.
Yeah. I'm going to have to actually look at that study and see if that ester was in there. Because like I said, they had all different esters and just testing.
Yeah, undecanoate's different than decanoate, though. Yeah.
But so yeah, literally, like I said, it was, even though you used testing, test safe, no, it was still androgenic as shit. The second you went to decanate, bam, safe. And that's, like I said.
What do you think about Anavar? Does Anavar affect hair loss? I don't think it does. Do you?
Every single steroid besides the one that I said, absolutely. And here's the issue, people consider Anavar kind of like a mild one. And like I said, with people who are truly hair loss sufferers, like they're checking their hair and they're checking for, that any increase of extra strands a day, right? And every single time I've added Anavar to a hair loss sufferer, bam, they're getting the increased shedding.
Really? But do you think that that's because a lot of the Anavar out there is fake?
I used to think, when I was first researching it, and I've even got fake Anavar before I tested it. Right. It was D-ball. But lately, with testing being, more easily to acquire now, no, I've had guys test their Anavar and still, bam, they get hair loss.
Interesting.
And here's the other funny thing, though, when you look at the studies in women, it is moderately androgenic still. They get, the hirsutism, they get that deepening of the voice, even off 5. I think some studies showed off 2.5 milligrams. Women got.
I don't see any side effects from women on Anavar, except if they're using fake Anavar. Yeah, I haven't seen it personally. Yeah. I work with a lot of women, and if they're getting like pharmaceutical Anavar, they never get side effects. They don't get anything. I really think a lot of the Anavar side effects are because they're using fake Anavar. That's my opinion.
I think that a lot happens too. Like you said, the first time I think I got Anavar, it was D-ball. The second I tested it, it was like, damn.
There's a lot of fake Anavar out there. So. Sorry. So super long acting esters seem to be hair safe, and you're not a believer in finasteride?
No, multiple reasons. No, just because. So now, obviously, I found the testosterone study used along Easter, and I've tested it in multiple guys now, and they've been on it for months, and literally they'll switch back to. So the one guy, he ran out of the testectinate, and he had to go back on his test E or SIP. I can't remember which one. Bam, hair loss within a few weeks. He's losing his hair again.
Where do you even get test decanoate? I haven't really seen it in a pure form like that.
Well, today,
is it underground? Is it underground?
Underground, yeah. Okay. And the main thing I always, when people do, obviously go underground, it's like, no, get your shit tested. Like you know what I mean? You don't know, and testing is so easily to get today. So it's like, spend the money, just test your shit.
Right.
So yeah, I've studied. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can finish what you're saying.
Like I said, I've tested it decently extensively now with clients, and it's like, bam, you add in the testectinate, no hair loss, fully safe. So it literally matches what the studies are saying.
Look, it's a lot of good information to process and try out. And I advise, all our listeners out there to give it a shot. Give me your feedback. Email me, let me know how it worked. And I think that if we could all put our brains together and keep accumulating more and more data, because empirical data is the most important thing. Bodybuilders have figured shit out way before the medical society did, because we're our own best guinea pigs. And, you put out a lot of ideas that, I'm sure are floating around out there, but you kind of put them all together. And I think it's a good thing to try, because like you said, there are some people that will just stop taking anabolics if they lose their hair, because their hair is that important. But then there's bodybuilders, and they're not going to stop because they're competing, and they don't want to lose their hair, but they're not willing to stop the anabolic. So if they can take certain steroids that are safer, that solves, checks both boxes, so to speak. So I'm going to see and recommend to some of my clients who might not even be watching this to try the testosterone decanoate ester and see if that really helps. And DECA obviously is another great anabolic to stack with testosterone. So the DECA testosterone decanoate mix might be the ticket. I wonder if it's the decanoate ester that's doing something, because it's in both those compounds that you mentioned,
And that's what I think it is, because like I told you, in the androgenic activity, like there was a graph, measuring its effects on, it was literally the exact same as nandrolone decanoate, the exact same over the course of the same amount of days and weeks, and it was
so it has to be something. The decanoate ester is doing something then. What it's doing, that we have to figure out.
You should give it a go. I mean, because obviously, like you said, you're on TRT. Well,
if I could get, I'm going to ask my compounding Titan Medical if they can, compound the testosterone decanoate, because I'll just tell people to go there and, get it. That might be a good solution, because I think, compounding pharmacies can do anything, I think, but no one really ever thought to do that, Esther, because it's just not that popular. But you know what? Maybe if it does alleviate hair loss, that might be the new TRT to go to, so to speak.
Exactly right. And I feel like that's probably the biggest issue with TRT. I'm trying to I feel like the highest complaint that I can think of is the hair loss. You know what I mean? Like most guys will go on an AI for a little nipple sensitivity, and I think the hair loss is the biggest one where it puts people off.
Yeah. You know what? The problem is if someone's prone to hair loss, a lot of times it just happens anyway, and there's really not that much you can do about it. But to say you can't do anything is stupid. You know, there is some protocols out there that do work, and I'm open. I want to hear everyone's feedback on if any of this stuff works for them, because there should be an ultimate hair loss protocol that we all kind of, we all know the PCT, protocol that when you go off a cycle, how you turn yourself back on. It's pretty established. HCG, Clomid, this and that. We should have a hair loss protocol that, hey, when you go on drugs, if you're prone to hair loss, this is what you take. And every bodybuilder should follow it. I mean, I like to make things very simplistic, and I like to make protocols that people can follow. And if we can give people a definitive formula for it, I think that that's going to solve a lot of people's problems and stop a lot of the anxiety that people have related to that.
That's actually a really good idea. I never thought of it that way, right? Because when somebody needs a PCT, they go directly to the same people. The minor differences, either
it's essentially the same,
Clomid or it's always the SERM, the HCG, maybe an AI, and that's it, right? It's always the same thing. So that's what it should be for hair loss, right? It just, you got hair loss, here's your PCT, here's your hair loss.
You're gonna write it out for you. We're gonna publish as an article on RX Muscle. Here it is.
Well, I do have
lay it out exactly. We're going to write it down so that people have it written out. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to try to listen to this video and interpolate what they should do. We're going to write the definitive one out with the most potent, because like you said, the complicated one might be too complicated for some people. But if we can put the most potent, hair loss, restorers in there, I think that's going to help out.
On my page, I do have the complicated, very and I think, like I said, some people read it and they'll be like, that's a lot. You know what I mean?
Which page is that? Where does that appear?
Tian.com.
Tian.com. Okay. That's Tian.
Taeian.
Okay. Taeian.com. Okay.
So some people go on it and be like, hey, this is a little bit here's the thing where people, what to take away from it. I list all the possible reasons what can cause hair loss, even dietary, you know what I mean? So like, hey, if you're deficient in zinc, this can cause hair loss. So some people look and be like, this is too much. It's like, no. Here are the main topicals or whatever you want to run, and everything else kind of below is like, hey, if you're deficient in, like I said, zinc, you might want to replete your zinc levels.
Right. Here it is, Tian.com. Check his website out and take a look at it. Thank you very much for coming on, by the way, and sharing all this great information with us. I always like to hear new and better ways of doing things, and I'm going to try some of your protocols, and hopefully I won't have an oil slick on my pillow at night when I go to sleep, but I put a towel down anyway, because I'm always like, I'm a greasy Italian, so I don't want to lose my pillowcases. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks you guys out there for joining us for another installment of Guru Talk. I'm Dave Palumbo with Tian. We'll see you next time.